And hello everyone, and welcome to the stream. My name is Commander Yannick, and hello from, I was going to say sunny Robigo, but everywhere sunny in space. Right, as you may have guessed from the stream title, we're going to be dealing with some irate passengers, most likely, on various passenger missions within the whole, I don't know if you want to call this region of space the Robigo Cluster. I mean, I do, because I don't really know what else to call it. It's a small, the micro bubble outside the bubble, but not too far away from it. But anyway, here we have the system that we're looking at. I'm flying from the Robigo system to the Sothis system on the passenger missions that I'll undertake shortly. And we're going to go to a tourist beacon and have a look at that as well. And that's actually what the target of the passenger missions tend to be in lots of this. So yeah, tourist beacon. Rather than delivering them to a particular place, fly to the tourist beacon in orbit of Sothis A5, and then fly back again. Right, let's return to the galactic map to see our course between Robigo. So they say there's not much here. There's obviously Ceos, and you can sort of see the nearby systems in their different sort of state, I suppose. Different economies. Yeah. See, Robigo mostly for mining, industry, extraction. Sothis, yeah, mostly agriculture, state of civil unrest, intriguing. Yes, and then also we have Ceos, another nearby system, which is more of a high-tech one. But you say there's not much in the so-called Robigo cluster. But it's a little way from the bubble. You could argue maybe it's just outside the bubble, but it seems to be like a different little sort of cluster by itself, really, in my view. But it's not like insanely far from the bubble. It's still 1,000 light years away. But here we are. I'm presently on this Robigo Mines, the station. Actually, let's go to external camera. The outpost, I should say, rather than the station. Quick look to where we are. Flying a Python today. It's a good place. It's the biggest ship you can reasonably fly in and out of an outpost. It's a medium-sized pad. But yeah, this is the outpost of Robigo Mines. Its name was supposed to be like a mining extraction station. I'm obviously on pad 5 there, so yeah. The thing is, these are kind of like, they're called outposts, but they are like small space stations, essentially. But they're defined as being like, when you have an outpost tends to be a smaller space station in Elite Dangerous, but with the main characteristic, apart from its size, tends to be that there's less security on them, and they only have small and medium pads, and then full stations actually have large pads as well. But yeah, that's where the biggest ship you can get into, a medium pad, is the one I'm using at the moment, the Python, which is, a very good all-round ship. As I've mentioned before, it's not without reason it's called King of Colonia, because there's so many outpost type starports in Colonia. But we're in orbit of this gas giant with a massive ring system. I mean, take a look at that ring system. It's very good. But yes, this is where we're starting from today. And we'll be returning on a sort of loop. Oh, there's another little sort of outpost at the station, I think. A little beacon, another spacecraft there. But anyway, yeah, we're returning here after we completed the little tourist runs. They're not long, but they are interesting. Right, back to the station, I think. Interior. And let's get us some passengers. Not all of them are going to be irate, but some of them will be. It's just the nature of them. Some of them love to complain. As in real life, some people, no matter what's going on, just seem to like have a thing for complaining. Yeah, we all know the type. And on a serious note, though, this is actually a very good way of making money. It's quite well known sort of passage between, say, Robigo and Sothis doing the Sirius Atmospherics tourist beacon run, or the tourist run, and you can get a fair amount of money relatively quickly this way. It's not quite as good as in terms of credits per hour as like the top mining would be, like core mining. It's slightly doing this kind of a passenger run in the Robigo cluster is slightly worse than doing some of the best laser mining. But you say I'm not really much of a core miner, I'm a laser miner when I have to do it. But yeah, I've done core mining a few times, but yeah, with varying levels of success. I probably should put more time and effort into developing that particular skill more than I have. But let's try to identify some people who we don't want to upset too much, who will pay us some money. Thing is with these, the ones that will pay the most tend to be going long distances, and I'm not going to do that today. I'm the ones for heading for this destination here, Sirius Atmospherics, the tourist beacon. And hello to anyone who's joining us at the moment. Welcome. Right, see the better prices here. See, passenger is wanted in multiple systems. Now, on a normal station, this would be more of a problem because it tends to be regular scans from both security ships and the station itself, depending on the station, what state it's in. You can obviously go into like the in-game stealth mode or silent running, but that's not a guarantee, but it will reduce the chances of you being scanned. But if you are scanned, you have a criminal on board, the station is likely to shoot at you, and your spacecraft will not last for very long. So that's the way of it. Even the most progressive systems seem to employ this tactic of executing people who are transporting criminals. You would think they want to round up the criminals, but this is the society of the future, apparently. I will take some of these criminal ones just to make life interesting. Plus, being on an outpost here, there's less security. Cross my fingers. And less chance of them being picked up. I will have to enter silent running when I near the tourist beacon, though, so to remember that. Pick a cabin for them. Now, you see, these ones in red means that it's not applicable to their requirements. So I will just pick this one for economy. Most of them have a party of a certain size. Sometimes it's just them, but sometimes it isn't. There's like, it could be up to 20 odd people. Right, let's see what other ones pay well. I'm just going to scan through a couple of the other factions board just in case any other really high paying runs to Sirius Atmospherics. Yeah, there's another one here for 5 million. I will take that. You say these criminal ones are always more of a risk, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles, as they say. You get slightly higher risk, you get a bit more money for it. Sometimes a lot more money. But yeah, I'm just giving like the headline money. If I wanted a quiet life, I'd probably just pick ones that were, not criminal, wanted people, and yeah, just go with those. Wouldn't have to bother with silent running or anything. But yeah, I'm on the stream, so let's make it interesting. I have done this criminal and non-criminal runs before, depending on what I'm trying to do. But okay, let's have a look. What's the next best paying missions? This one looks great. Khaleesi Massi. Good name. Non-criminal, this one. Good. Only first class for them. Nothing but the best for my lady. See if there's any other good paying ones on this run. There's a few 2 million ones here, so I'll pick one of those. Another wanted person, but that's not a problem, is it? Right now. Okay, wonderful. You see some of these distant ones are sort of literally like 21,000 light years, 1,900 light years to. These are usually distant tourist beacons. I mean, if I happen to be going out that direction, then fair enough. But I'm not, so you can get very good pay for these. See, like 50 million ones for 33,000 light years. That's a long way. But you get a lot of scan money for that, so you probably could return for way more than 50 million. You might get 50, 100 million, however, in scan. Could be a lot more depending on how much you scan, actually. But yeah, so you could return from that with potentially like, 100 million plus. But it's the time factor as well. I mean, it's how much tolerance you have for honking and scooping throughout the elite world universe. Right, so the next one. Yeah, if you want to avoid criminals, you've got to be very careful and check the adverts closely just to make sure. But in this case, I'm not that bothered, so it's not a problem. Okay. Yes, there'll be a few criminals here today. Yeah. Have various cabins of different sizes and types. Most of the really good pay missions have gone, but let's just pick another one. Yes, the cabins get filled up, obviously your options do reduce further and further. As they are now, I think we're more or less full. Yeah, this will be the last one. All my cabins are full before beginning. Now you see they're no longer available. Some of them want a different cabin anyway, but I say they're already full up. But yeah, there are some. I think with these very long distance runs, like more than 1,000 light years, yeah, you can get a pretty penny, definitely, especially if you get several going to the same tourist beacon. Let's say they all want 30 million apiece, and there's 3 of them, and you get 90 million for that. So, and obviously plus all the universal cartographic scan money. And I've not much here to sell today anyway. I always tend to do this when I go to a station, unless I'm saving up for a particular faction or project I want to save it for. See, the best part of the million there from just my flying about scans. Pick the money wherever you can. Take the money wherever you can. Unless you are, say, saving for a particular reason. But that's all good. Okay, let us get underway. See, in the right-hand corner down there, if you're actually, it's probably slightly obscured by the Yannick Gaming logo. I will briefly take the logo out of the picture just to show, but see, illegal passenger down there in red above fuel, bottom right hand corner of the screen. That tells you that you've got someone on board who is a wanted criminal somewhere in the galaxy. But still, let us roll. The other possibility exists, isn't just sort of scans around tourist beacons or stations, is that some passengers who are very much wanted have a big bounty on them. You might get interdicted by an NPC bounty hunter. If you're in open, you might get interdicted by an actual player bounty hunter. It's not as common, but it does happen. Yeah. As we discussed in the stream before, there are definitely PvP bounty hunters out there. Players will obviously scan someone and see if they're wanted. If they're wanted, they'll go for them. Now let's see. There's 3 jumps. I think, if I remember correctly, I can do this without refueling. I think I may have taken the scoop of this on purpose to actually push in as many passenger cabins as I could. Hey, I think I can do this without refueling. We'll soon find out. Wouldn't be too far to refuel anyway here. As always, if there's typical sort of advice for if you are running low on fuel and you're not sure if you can make it, obviously try and switch to economy mode, and that should actually give you a much better chance of finding your way to the nearest station. If you think that you can't and you know you're going to run out of fuel very soon and you're nowhere near the station, then call the fuel rats. That's always the way. Fuel rats are a lovely group of people, generally one of the most helpful player groups in the whole game because they exist as an emergency service. The motto is, we have fuel, you don't. Any questions? which is absolutely bang on, you know. But being like an emergency service in real life, they come in, they'll help whoever. It doesn't matter who you are, what your allegiance is. If you're a commander in need, they will help you. The only downside doesn't come from them, to be honest. It comes from every now and then you'll get a ganker who will actually call the fuel rats on purpose just to gank one, to blow them up, which is not nice, really. It's a bit like an attacking an ambulance worker in real life, but yeah, it's thankfully quite rare. I think even most like hardcore gankers don't actually do that because they realise they may need a fuel rat at some point, and it isn't a good look, really. I think most PvP players frown on attacking fuel rats, or their brethren the Hull Sealers, who similarly are a sort of in-game emergency service run by a player group.
System scan complete.
And the Hull Seals, they repair your hull. And between the two of them, yeah, they can help you out of a host of trouble anywhere in the galaxy where you may be, because obviously if you've got to that point, then they can get there as well. There is nowhere outside their reach if you've got there already. The solar system, which will be our target for this run. Comes the tourist beacon. They say it's in orbit of the planet A5, which is an Earth-like world, which is actually in co-orbit Trojan orbit with another Earth-like world, which is an interesting kind of duo.
Mission critical message.
Yes. Yeah, this is where people start asking for things. Some passengers will ask, oh, can you get me this, this, and this? Could you get me whatever it is, you know, like 3 tons of alcohol, or, you know, or any other kind of goods. It's like, sometimes you think, what do you need that for? You know, you're going to a tourist beacon. It's a kind of weird party here. Yeah, most of them haven't complained so far. They're just looking for nav, telling me where to get the nav beacon is, which I already know where it is. So we say the tourist beacon, not the nav beacon. Serious atmospherics. Actually, I am going to go super cruise assist for this one. So instead of talking to things, but yeah, it's a super cruise assist. I generally don't use as a matter of routine. It tends to be, say, if I'm trying to explore a planet, I want to orbit it with using my eyes to sort of look around, you know, the planet to see if I can find any interesting geographical features, and also on these kind of, you know, repetitive runs, whether it be trade or passenger ones, like going between several places repetitively, it gets a bit annoying after a while. So to, you know, avoid it being so repetitive, the easiest things to do is to turn on Super Cruise Assist. Here we are, serious atmospherics. Now obviously you think, oh, wait a minute, why would anyone pay this money, especially millions of credits, to go to a tourist beacon when you just see it in orbit of a planet? I mean, the planet might be pretty for them, who knows, but this is just the standard part of a lot of tourist missions. Sometimes the tourist beacons do exist on a planet. Now that's more understandable. Even then it's a case of, okay, you've gone to a planetary surface, you've scanned the beacon, got some information from the beacon. It's like, it doesn't sound much of a holiday to me, but yeah, it's just the way the game mechanics are. We have the lovely world of A5. I know they should call it something else. Sometimes the Earth-like worlds have like nice names or interesting names, but this one is just A5. It's like, really? Couldn't come anything better than that? It's Earth-like world, crying out loud. You put some effort into it, don't you? Hello, Geo. How's it going? I'm going to quickly engage silent running before anyone notices me. Because of the criminals on board, I don't want and to notice it. Normally I wouldn't care, but yeah, only because I got the criminals on, but I don't want people to scan me and then have an excuse to blow me up.
Mission objective complete.
Yeah. I've done that. Let's get away from the area as quickly as possible. While I plot the course away from here. I'll leave it silent running until I'm clear of the area. There's no point in taking unnecessary risks. Right, we're going back to Robigo.
Warning, temperature critical.
Yeah, one of the few warnings I do leave on for the ship's computer telling me that is actually the heat ones or the attack or damage ones. Yeah, it should be okay for now. It's not quite up to 100 yet. Yeah, I think I'm out of scan range anyway. So I will take silent running off. See the heat in the middle, the percentage just above the scanner has gone down massively from nearly 100 to 35 now. So yeah, it's usually pretty quick, but as I say, it's like in just the vicinity of the beacon itself. There are other ships, and I think I'm out of range of it now. Yeah, I didn't want them to scan me. Don't give them an excuse to attack you. Yeah, see there's some other people wanting various requests. Actually, no, they haven't made them yet. There's not this one anyway. Let's not worry about that though. This is the actual tourist beacon information. Serious atmospherics. Early terraforming tended to use genetically engineered biological processes, change the atmosphere of a suitable world over many decades into a breathable atmosphere using energy captured from the star via biological processes. This process was both slow, expensive, in brackets it was made up of many stages, so only a narrow set of worlds was suitable. The idea of doing direct chemical conversion on a vast scale was there, but not practical because of vast power requirements. I think the idea is that Sirius Corporation was like the first one in the elite law to actually do sort of terraforming as a sort of core part of their business, and as sustain. I mean, Sirius are one of the oldest sort of corporations in the elite universe, and still probably the most powerful one, I think. But yeah, that's part of their business. They have their hands in most pies, or fingers in most pies. You can understand in a universe that wants more and more Earth-like worlds that you go out and make them if you can't find them in a certain place. So terraforming seems like a great idea. See that one of these worlds is an early example of terraforming then, or that particular kind of terraforming. Faster one. Yeah, no, so I'm going around as if I'm going to scoop the star, if I'm not, it's just a force of habit. Sometimes I don't, and if I know I'm going to go a long way without scooping, sometimes I do just steer clear of the star or just round it at a distance. It does slow you down going too close, but as I say, I'm an explorer, it's a force of habit. Right, onward we go. Yeah, I'm doing okay for fuel. It's not doing badly. Familiar patterns of witch space. Another reflex action is scanning the system. Even if I've been there before, I always just automatically do it. I'm hardwired into you as an explorer. So you want to scan, even if it's just a very sort of surface, superficial sort of scan of the Discovery scanner, which I'm using at the moment. Still want to get everything you can from the system, and there's obviously scan money involved in that as well. Not that's the main reason by any means, but I was getting a name on things is kind of a cool thing to do wherever possible. Some people get obsessed by that. I've never been actually obsessed by that. It's because I say it's nice if there's a new system you've discovered and it's very interesting. It's got something unusual about it, and then you've been the first discoverer of that. Yeah, that can be a great achievement. And all these people who go that way to get their nail on absolutely everything they can. But, you know, it is nice sometimes to see, oh, that's a cool system. And I was the first one to discover it. We've rounded the star, and on course for Robigo Mines. Yeah. This system does have quite a few others well, not. I think there's actually one mega ship in this system, but there's actually a whole bunch of fleet carriers. This is unsurprising that there's so many fleet carriers. Actually, it is quite a strategic system, or at least a useful system, I would say. Is it actually strategic? I can't remember. Probably not, actually. Come to think of it. But yeah, you've got all these fleet carriers and a little station right at the middle. But here we are. I mean, look at the amount of fleet carriers that are parked around the gas giant system. I mean, it's just ludicrous. I mean, yeah, they're the same as the other gas giant with Hauser's Reach. Hauser's Reach, possibly. The beauty of the English language, more than one way of pronouncing lots of things depending on which nationality you are, or even which region sometimes that you are. But there we are, Robigo Mines. Yeah, it's a good use for Supercruise Assist as well, so you can interrogate system maps, or the galactic map for that matter. Obviously, if I'm exploring, I don't need to even worry about that so much because I'll just point in whatever direction and it'll keep flying, as long as I don't crash into anything. Yeah, you point your ship away from any planetary body and just it'll keep flying in a straight line. No matter what, really. It's all good. See, the only downside of these outposts, smaller stations, is that because they have relatively few pads, sometimes you do get docking requests denied because the pads are all in use. It tends to be more likely, actually, if you're in a private group or in open where you've got a lot of commanders around, because they will themselves be hogging some of the pads. You'll have to wait until they've actually stopped hogging the pad before you get on. And here we are, bingo. Refuel. Repair. And let's our passengers all disembark. Weirdly enough, there hasn't been any irate ones so far. I think it tends to happen more when they want something from you and you've not got it for them, but these flights are so short there's not really much time for that. If you start crashing into things or people start shooting at you, then they get very irate. The choice is here between the raw cash, highest payout, a good reputation boost for the faction system, and an influence as well. So your reputation for with them, an influence of the faction, I should say. That's more accurate. Yeah, I actually used to do BGS work at one point, and I've not done very much of it since. BGS being, for those of you who aren't sure, the background simulation in a sort of the sort of economic and faction play between different systems. The strength of different player-based factions and NPC factions as well within different systems. And you can increase or decrease your influence. Obviously, let's say you have let's say an NPC faction is the most powerful in the system. You could have, let's say, a player-based faction that comes in and plays does missions to boost their their influence on the system BGS, and then they'll become the controlling faction of that system. I mean, that's the idea. It's very much it's kind of a meta game, really, in many ways, because you don't see directly the sort of effects of it other than the influence increase or reduce. I mean, one of the good things, if you do become the controlling faction of that system, your faction will be noted as being in control of the major assets, especially space stations. Not always all of them, but usually the major ones. Let's say you're in a system like this and you've got a larger space station and some smaller outposts, then it's likely the controlling faction will probably take control of the larger station. Suddenly the second faction might have one of the outposts, but yeah, it isn't always as straightforward as that, but it tends to happen that way. But yeah, this time I'm going for the money as a reward. Sometimes you also get offered not just the possibility of influence and money in different amounts, but you can actually be offered materials, whether that be sort of data, some kind of electronics or other sort of raw material. Sometimes I think even you're offered sort of raw elements. Yeah, I'm going for the money in all of these, to be honest. And just see if there's any of them have an option for any kind of usable materials for engineering, because there's always something to be engineered somewhere. I mean, I don't think I have everything engineered exactly the way I want it to. Some spacecraft I have maxed out, like my main Explorer, I think is one I fly in a lot, Orion Chariot. That's pretty much maxed out in at least in exploration range and a few other departments. Yeah, I don't think any of these ones have a reward that are scans or materials. So yeah, I'm just going for the money on these ones. This one does actually have a reward. That's for conductive polymers. At the moment, I'm not in particular need of that, as far as I'm aware. Let's just check anyway, just to set my mind at ease. Go to the inventory, tab on the right hand side, and then go down to materials. Now, it was it's polymer. Conductive polymers, right. Let's have a look for conductive polymers. Here we are, conductive polymers. I think it's a grade 4 material. It might be useful, potentially. Let's click on it to see what it has to say. This is the detail of the material in question. Locations found at settlements, shipwrecks, or mission rewards, as in this case it's a mission reward. Can be traded, manufacturing material traders. Yeah, it can. That's why sometimes you have, let's say, a huge surplus of a particular material and you want to trade it for something else, you can. The rates are usually not very good. They're massively in favour of the material trader. Some of the ratios are quite terrible, like for certain items it's like 50 to 1 or something. For every 50 you give them a certain material, they will give you 1 back, and it depends what it is and how high the grade material you're trading in the first place and how higher grade the material that you want is, and the rarity of it, I think, plays a factor. But yeah, it's not the most efficient way of getting material. Sometimes it's the only sort of rapid way of doing so. Like, you could spend a long time trying to farm materials. I mean, I think anyone who's played Elite for any significant length of time knows that you often have to go on these little sort of quests to farm materials to get what you need, because some of them are quite rare and quite tricky to find, and are going to be found in certain situations and in certain places, or sometimes combination of situations and places. So it's there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of knowledge, certainly necessary to play these sort of the more intricate aspects of the game, I would say. But it's out there. I mean, say like low-level engineering, you can get quite big improvements on the performance of your ship in almost every way, even for just like the lowest level of engineering. So I would advise even people who've played for very long or aren't that experienced in it, try the even the low-level engineering, because it's all worth it. It's all improvement in your jump range, potentially the strength of your weapons. Almost every measurement you can think of, you can improve your ship and its equipment. But yeah, apparently this is a rare manufactured material found in ships frequently used by haulage vessels. When haulage vessels were scavenged. Yeah, exactly. I think I might actually take this one, just because it's on offer. So I won't take the money in that case. Okay. This gave me a little boost of reputation with the Robigo cartel faction as well. So now there should be some other good paying missions available also for the passenger missions here. Yeah, there's a fair few. I'm going to have a look around before I start actually taking missions for any particular group of people. See all these distant ones still. And some places are like way beyond Colonia even. See this one here, Eopru, whatever, is 22,000 light years. That's in the Colonia sort of sector. Eopru, whatever, is the Colonia Nebula and surrounding area. So that's a long way to go. If you went that far, you probably end up docking at Colonia anyway and then coming back. But yeah, that's a long haul. Some of them are much longer than that even. It's the longest one I can find here, 26,000 light years. 30,000 light years, another one I saw recently. But anyway, back to earning the money, the big bucks for this. Okay, see this one specifically is Colonia. Colonia system. It's like people confused. There's the Colonia Nebula, which is obviously the nebula, and the regions they like that as well. And you've also got the system called Colonia, which was the first one to be inhabited by humans in that area of space, where the famous Jack Station is. So there's two going here. If I was wanting to take a long distance passenger mission, those two might be quite good because I can do them both at the same time. Actually, you could also do the El Pru one as well, saying that they're in the same region, so you could hit them all. But I'm not going to do that today. It would take me quite a while to get there and back again, but yeah, we will see. Maybe I'll do that at some point in the future. But in terms of credits per hour, if that's what you're trying to do credit farm, then it's probably not the best. If you want an adventure and do that as well and get some fair money for it, then yeah, it's not a bad way doing so. Basically, you're almost like doing an exploration mission with some passengers on board. That's effectively what it becomes after a while. Okay, there's a 4 million one I saw over here, so I think I'll go for that. Ooh, 4 million, not a criminal. That's unusual, but I will take it. See, demanding passengers making demands here. That's what I was alluding to in the title of this video. Stream, I should say, not video. There's an overlap sometimes between video makers on YouTube and other platforms and streamers, but people tend to specialize in one or the other, don't they? I think I'm happier streaming than I am making videos. I'll probably make some actual long form video at some point, but in some ways it's just easier to edit streams together to do that. But you say some people prefer the sort of mini documentary or even mini sort of filmmaking techniques of putting a video together. Yeah, everyone has different strengths, etc. Like a lot of the actual YouTubers, full-time YouTubers, do stream, but it's not usually a regular thing for them. Like on special occasions or once in a while they'll do that. I mean, I do technically have videos based upon these streams. I just transfer them over to YouTube on my channel there, but I'm not actually making YouTube videos. I'm just literally, these are just stream videos that happen to be on YouTube. I would describe myself as now being a Twitch streamer, yeah, but I wouldn't describe myself as being a YouTuber at all. So 3 million ones here. I think there were some other 3 million ones here. Yeah, I think I will take those. Rich tourist, eh? Interesting way to spend your money. Right. Some of these, obviously these are like, you know, various computer generated names, but sometimes they can be quite funny. As in like two names you didn't think would go together, but then again this is the far future, so who knows what these names are going to be like by this point. All kinds of interesting mixtures that wouldn't have previously existed. I'll take this, yeah, it's another criminal, this one. Okay, fair enough. I will not ask questions. Okay, there's another 2.7 million one there. I will also take this. Okay. Of the remaining serious atmospheric missions, there's 2 million one there. Similar there. And the Robigo cartel. Not so many, but I think I've got a higher rep with the CDE Corporation and the Sirius Corporation, so that's why I'm getting better offers from them. Oh, there's only a couple of criminals in this one, but they're still there nonetheless. Yeah, now that most of the cabins have been filled up, my options have been reduced somewhat, but that's fine. Yeah, the Robigo cartel aren't offering anything much. So it's between these two at the top. Actually, it's only really this, isn't it? These are the only two missions left. Okay, fair enough. I will probably end up taking these instead, as opposed to like long distance ones, which is all good. Welcome to anyone who's just joining us in the stream. I'm Commander Yannick, and I will be your guide for the stream, however long you may be here. For those of you watching, if you like what I do, please follow me. And if you're feeling extra generous and supportive, then I'd be very grateful if you made a donation. Just click in the About section. But yeah, follows don't cost anything, and they're an awesome way to support streamers and other creatives like myself, wherever you may find them. I always try to do that with other streamers as well. I always tend to, like, you know, if I like somebody, I always tend to follow them, and you know, it's just a nice way of showing that you're interested and you support what they do. Okay. Now we're gonna click on back to the Sophis system. Well, yeah, the little blue square with the globe in it, that's indicating there's a mission to that place. And in this case, it's in orbit of A5, so that's why I always click on planet Sophis A5. But yeah, see, there's a few stations around here, Newham Station, and there's lots and lots and lots of fleet carriers. The actual planet itself, let's have a look at what its characteristics are. Yeah, it's nearly 2 Earth masses, 1.9 Earth masses. Gravity, 1.45 G, so yeah, more than nearly 1.5 Earth G. Pretty substantial, really. You'd certainly build muscles quickly on a world like that, just by walking around. A bit like walking around, like having half your body weight again, like strapped onto you in various weights on, I guess, spread across your body, across all your limbs. It would be very similar to that. You'd wear yourself out pretty quickly. The atmospheric pressure, though, surprisingly low, only 0.73 atmospheres. So, low pressure. Can a human actually sustain themselves in such a low pressure environment? I think you can if the oxygen is high enough, in terms of breathing in and out. The oxygen content is only slightly higher than it would be on Earth, so can you move around freely like that without much of a problem? It's an interesting question. Obviously, at a certain complete lack of pressure, then the human body starts to malfunction quite badly. But yeah, I was thinking like for the Apollo spacecraft and lots of other sort of Gemini and other space flights of that era, all American ones, not Soviet ones, because Soviet used conventional atmospheres, but American ones tended to use pure oxygen environments, at least when they're in space. I mean, to confuse matter, Gemini and Mercury both use pure oxygen from launch onwards for the entire mission. Apollo is a bit different. All the Apollos that actually flew started with a fairly sort of standard atmosphere, but then would actually transition to a pure oxygen environment once they were in space. Part of the reason is to save weight and also to have a higher, say, pure oxygen atmosphere, but have lower pressure, so you wouldn't, need as much oxygen in the tanks, as it were, to actually, fresh oxygen to keep pushing through the system, etc. You'd have less weight. I think that was part of the theory behind it. But obviously, if you have like pure oxygen at a full atmospheric pressure, that's actually quite dangerous. And unfortunately, that's how the crew of Apollo 1 tragically passed away on a fire on a launch pad test, because their spacecraft was actually, it didn't just have one atmosphere of pure oxygen, it had above one atmosphere of pure oxygen, which is pretty mad. It's one of those times that you thought, how do such intelligent engineers, such intelligent scientists actually not see this was a problem? And some of it was just, obviously, sometimes left hand, not the right hand was doing. I think North American, the corporation that made the Apollo Command and Service Module, actually warned NASA against doing that, but NASA would test it that way anyway because they thought they knew better what they were doing, because they're doing exactly the same procedure on tests during the Mercury and Gemini era. But it went wrong in the early Apollo era, because they say that having more than one atmosphere with pure oxygen, they say it's just like a bomb basically waiting to go off. You just need a small spark to start a complete inferno. I mean, the atmosphere on Earth is about 1/5, about 20% oxygen, and the rest of it's nitrogen mostly, and a mixture of other gases. But in pure oxygen environments, stuff burns that doesn't normally burn. Like, it reacts so quickly. I mean, for example, aluminum in America will actually burn quicker. So it will just burn in weight. It won't actually burn under normal atmospheric conditions. And the very fact that aluminium will just burn full stop is going to not smolder but actually burn. Yeah. And most things become combustible in that sort of pure oxygen environment. So you've got a very, very dangerous situation. And unfortunately, that is what happened. The crew perished in a flash fire. And it was a horrible tragedy to sort of start off the Apollo program. But they made a lot of changes after that, and thankfully it became a lot safer. They never repeated those pure oxygen tests, and they say when they started using these pure oxygen in space again, they would never use it at full atmosphere. It would always be at a small fraction of normal atmospheric pressure. And at that level of oxygen sort of density, wasn't that dangerous. It was, basically the atmosphere in the Apollo spacecraft, one that actually went to the moon or even around the Earth, would always be like, you took a regular atmosphere but you take the nitrogen away, and that's basically what they had. So it was like about small fraction of the pressure, but what gas was there was oxygen, so that people could breathe fine, because obviously nitrogen is like a normal sort of inert gas as far as the body is concerned. As far as you breathe in and out, your inhale and exhale is going to be about the same amount of nitrogen in it. Because your body can't use it like that, it's just in the air, it doesn't react, it doesn't do anything. The oxygen obviously it takes in and it uses to keep you alive. But yeah, it's a slightly sad story from the beginnings of human spaceflight. Interesting, you got this NPC saying Valor, coverage and bravery, enlist today. Yeah, enlisting your petty little war? No thank you. And doing passenger duties today. I think this spacecraft's completely unarmed anyway. Most of my spacecraft are unarmed, unless there's particularly a combat ship. I tend to leave them without armament. Ah, here we are, Sirius Atmospherics. Imagine having that, the technology to terraform a whole world. Obviously it would depend how long it would take. I mean, I think obviously by the lore in this it took initially like decades probably, and then they sort of reduced it to maybe only a few years. But either way, imagine that transformation process to be able to change the surface and the atmosphere of an entire world. From something that's kind of akin to Mars, you know, mostly carbon dioxide atmosphere, to one that's oxygen, nitrogen. Silent running engaged. Scan as quickly as I can, and then move away, because this is always, with silent running, essentially what it is a lot of the sensors trying to detect your spacecraft will look for its heat signature. And to stop the heat signature from being detected at all, silent running will just close off all the vents and make sure that the spacecraft's heat signature is incredibly small, close to non-existent as you can get, so the sensors won't pick it up. That's their theory anyway. It usually works, not always, but mostly does. See, I'm not using boost because that tends to actually increase the temperature even more quickly. But yeah, you can hear the temperature go up and the warning started as well. So yeah, I'm just getting out of the area around the beacon. No other ships now, so I think I can probably take some running off.
Taking heat damage.
68 victim. When the heat warnings start getting more serious. Okay, excellent. Let's go back to Robigo. So yeah, I've also got not just a Crate Phantom I came out here in my exploration, but I've also a Beluga liner for trips from the bigger station, because obviously a Beluga can only fit into that kind of station. Can only barely fit into that station anyway. But yeah, that's another sort of passenger liner that I have. Return to Robigo Mines. So what do we have here? This ship, Galactic Travel Promenade areas are now open. Okay, that's one of the local starliners broadcasting, as they always do. They always say they're in the top 1%, but not everyone can be in the top 1%, and you all keep saying that. So it looks a little bit silly. They're very silly people, actually. People who run these cruise liners seem to have very few things to say for themselves, and most of them don't make any sense. Sounds quite intriguing though. I use that word too much, don't I, on these streams? Not everything can be intriguing, but anyway, yes, starliners. That sounds like quite a nice thing to do, flying through space and visiting sort of various planets and tourist destinations. Actually dock somewhere rather than just fly to a stupid tourist beacon somewhere. Now I understand if you're going to the system, you're looking for the beauty of the stars and the planets, and then the tourist beacon is just somewhere you go along the way, but just to go to a tourist beacon, it's a bit weird. Yeah, it's interesting how you can almost see in the Elite universe the different influences from different sci-fis. From Star Wars, Star Trek, Blake 7, Babylon 5. Yeah, most of the really sort of big notable ones over the last sort of 30 or 40 years. You can see like different elements of them in different ways, so it's all interesting. And out of those, I think those of you who know it probably love it, but Blake 7 is one of the most underrated. It's for those of you who aren't sure what I'm talking about, it was a sci-fi series made by the BBC in the late 70s and early 80s. It's like a sort of a bit like the Mirror Universe Star Trek in a way, except for made by the BBC for a sort of British audience. But I think it's being kind of a cult following throughout the world, really. And yeah, when I say it's a bit like Mirror Universe Star Trek, it is because there is a federation, but it's fascist, and the Blake and his crew are trying to are basically freedom fighters, and they're trying to bring down the fascist federation. And yeah, it is a sort of more dark and cynical universe, but it is very, very good and amazingly written and very well acted. The effects budget is quite low, but then again, Star Trek the original series, the effects budget is also pretty bad. You know, it's I thought at the time it wasn't too bad, but yeah, it's mid to late 60s. But yeah, it's like it's similarly sort of, it's like dodgy effects at times. But like Doctor Who, it was a sci-fi series made for very little money, but got a huge following. And funnily enough, a lot of the same people were actually involved in Blake 7 as made Doctor Who. So if you're a Doctor Who fan, especially like the original Doctor Who, not the more recent one, it's at that era of Doctor Who, there was a lot of the same people involved, like Terry Nation, that guy who invented the Daleks, and a few other creatures. He invented Blake 7 and he wrote most of the original stories for it. I think there were other writers that got involved down the line, but yeah, it was his. Should I bother to see the cross? Yeah, I think I will. But that's a recommendation in itself. You know, the man who invented the Daleks made his own sci-fi series, which was really good. Actually, there was originally Nation's plan was to actually bring the Daleks into Blake 7, with the implication being, yeah, this is actually the same universe as Doctor Who, and this really is actually like a Doctor Who spin-off series, except for it's made from one of, like, obviously the sort of civilizations within it. But the BBC vetoed that and said, no, you can't do that, we want to keep these two things separate, which is a shame, really, because it could have allowed for like greater crossover potential. But yeah, there's the alien invasion of the galaxy, which was originally supposed to be the Daleks. You don't actually ever see the aliens directly, so you never get to, in person. You just see the spacecraft or what have you, and sort of bits of technology and things, wrecks and what have you. But you don't see very much. It would have been awesome though. I mean, the Daleks and Blake 7, fantastic, really. Is anyone here a fan of Blake 7 or old school Doctor Who? I don't hate the new one, so it's not really for me though. I tried it a few times and never really got into it. It seems like a different show to me, really. But that's just myself. Okay. About to drop into Robigo Mines. Hey ho, Robigo.
Docking request granted.
Ah, the docking music. Soothes my soul. The music in Elite isn't bad. I think when I first had it, I left it on, but then after a while I thought, well, I'll listen to my own music now, so yeah, I just put that on instead. But the docking music is just, I say it's classic because it's about all the Elite games. It's like something that is always there. I only really got into Elite on the second game, and I sort of played the first of the sort of retro game afterwards, but and I owned the third one as well. This is now Elite Dangerous is Elite 4, so not they ever call it that, but it is. Right, let's see. Offloading the passengers and how much lovely money they're going to give us. From time to time, if a passenger is irate and they may give a reason for not wanting to give you the money or swanning off without paying, that does happen as well. Biotech conductors, grade 5. Yeah, anything that's grade 5 material is probably worth getting, so I'm going to take that. Grade 4 or grade 5. I think other materials of like grades 1 to 3 is like, you know, I've got quite a lot of those anyway, so I'm not really that bothered. But yeah, anything that's grade 4 or 5 as a reward, I think it's probably worth taking. Yeah, I'll take that. That seems fine. Yeah, I'm not... I suppose, like I said, I was originally coming for purely for monetary reasons, but I think I'll actually take some of these materials. Funny, because the account that needs the money the most is my alternate account that actually has the DSSA fleet carrier attached to it. That's the one that needs money more than this one. This one I don't really technically need the money. It's just nice to get it. Yeah, I'll take the materials. I'll always need engineering materials though. Yeah, it's not always an option to get engineering materials, but yeah, the money is fine. It's all good, it's all good. I was going to start making some slightly, shall we say, mature audience quotes, but I will leave that because I'm not on one of those streams. So maybe I'll do one in future that I have, but I'll try and keep my broadcasting style sort of PG-13 wherever possible. Okay, this looks like a good opportunity for a quick break, and I will see you shortly. And we're back in the room. Welcome back, everyone. And hello to those of you who are joining the stream just now. I'm Commander Yannick, and you're all welcome to... Here we are at beautiful Robigo. I don't know about the station, but the gas giant is definitely, I would say, is a beautiful thing. And we're trying to stop passengers from being irate with us by hopefully not doing anything to, annoy them too much. That's the idea anyway. Hopefully these are such short runs that they don't have that much time to be irate unless you actually crash into something or, get shot at by somebody. But yeah, trying to avoid those anyway. But okay, let's have a look what passenger missions are presently available. Yeah, there's some more long-range ones to Colonia. The similarly sort of long-distance 20,000 light-year runs. No serious atmospherics ones for CDE Corporation to do. Well, at this particular time, anyway. Thankfully, Robigo Cartel do have a few, which is nice. See what non-serious they have. Yeah, there's a few others. Colonia is a popular destination. It usually is. The other bubble. Other human bubble. Deep out. You could say reasonably. I wouldn't say that the Robigo cluster is enough to really call it a bubble in its own right. It's too small. But the Witchhead systems is enough of a cluster to that be called another sort of mini bubble as well, like Colonia is. Except the Witchhead cluster is a lot nearer to the bubble, and it's there aren't anywhere near as many inhabited systems there are in Colonia. So Colonia is quite a bit bigger than the Witchhead sort of systems, collection of systems. But on the other hand, it's nowhere near as big as, by any means, as the main bubble of human space, centered around the Sol system. Yeah, see the longest runs here are 37,000 light years. All very sort of long haul runs. Yeah, see these couple to the Running Man sector here wouldn't be sort of bad intermediate sort of runs to maybe make some exploration money as well. But yeah, I'd say they'd be worth having. They'd be worth doing. If you were new to long distance passenger missions and wanted to see what it was like. But yeah, no, say Colonia is definitely a location that could be. Maybe one of these days I will on the stream do that to see what's happening. Okay, continuing onwards. Right, serious atmospherics, yes, I think so. Right, accept contract for that one, definitely. So other high paying one here as well. Yeah, that's all good. Another big group. I will continue forwards. That one looks alright. 2 and a bit billion. See what the Robigo Cartel ones offer. Because obviously my rating with them is not quite as high. The little bar here, my reputation with them isn't as high. They're not offering me quite the same level of payment for missions, but hopefully that'll increase over time. Okay. Serious Corporation. Yeah, going to Serious Atmospherics. There's a bit of a serious vibe going on here. One of the biggest sort of NPC factions in the game, really. Serious Corporation. Okay, yep. Accept the contract for that as well. Yes. Robigo Cartel. Now, 2.1 mil, yeah, sure thing. Two for that, 2 mil. different kind of money in real life. That's a frequently made joke, though, isn't it, by anyone who's got like a large amount of money in Elite. It's like, well, if I only had even like 1% of this in real life, I'd be laughing all the way to the bank and back again. It's fun. So, I don't have that much left in the way of choice for these, but just pick the best paying one to get me more rep with them, which will be in turn more pay in future, so it's all fine. It's all good. And there we are. I'll take that one as well. Just to round off. Actually, I've got one more cabin to fill, so maybe that other serious mission. No, I can't. I don't have the appropriate cabins for those. Okay, fair enough. I will get on my merry way. All the tip-off missions. I'm not interested. Seriously, I'm not interested. Maybe another time. Certainly not now. Okay, boost away from the station and then get on with it. Once more we go, once more. Let's say you can, if you do this sort of regularly, you can get a fair few million in an hour. It's always a measure of sort of how much money you can get per credits per hour for any particular activity. If you just want to raise money and that's all you want to do, I think people who are going for big things like a particular ship, or if you're going for a fleet carrier particularly, that's going to cost you a lot. So things like that become very important. So this is a good way of doing it. It isn't mining, because a lot of people, myself included, get bored fairly rapidly with mining. So passenger mission seems like a good alternative. I mean, I often alternate between the two if I want to get a particular amount of money for a particular ship or project that I'm trying to do within Elite. It's I think also with the passenger missions, the relatively small ships can still start taking them, so it's a good way to sort of build up to get money for better and better ships. I think also you could say the same, quite sort of reasonably apply to a lot of mining, though there's certain, obviously it's the bigger ships that are the most efficient with mining, so you won't get the bigger ships until you have the money, so passenger missions might actually be more useful for people who have less experience and less money in Elite, and you want to get the best ships to help you. But the credits per hour in mining is the highest still. I mean, who knows, that may change again in future, but at the moment it tends to be mining that gets you better credits per hour. Combat has improved a lot over the last sort of year or so. I think Frontier has been sort of trying to balance the game better. Like, combat's the highest risk, it was one of the worst paid. Now it's still not paid brilliantly, but it's kind of like much better compensation for your time and effort. Obviously, if you do take a sort of quite large combat ship, you can take limpets with you and collect the materials from destroyed ships, which I sometimes do, as another way of getting further materials. So that's killing two birds with one stone. Almost literally in that case. But yeah, these are all ways of getting materials and gaining money in the Elite universe. Some people probably find passenger missions even more dull than mining. I'm the other way around. I don't mind this as much. It's still kind of not the most exciting thing that you can do, but I find it less boring than mining. And more than an hour to mining at a time. I don't want to do it anymore. A couple of hours I can sometimes do. If I've got some big goal I need to push for, then maybe I can do that. But it really depends. Okay, here we go.
Mission critical message.
Serious atmospheres. Here we are. yeah, as you say, rinse and repeat until you have the amount of money that you would like. Obviously, if you're aiming for a fleet carrier, that is a huge amount. I mean, it's relatively, I say, easy to get some of the bigger ships. I mean, you can get to an Anaconda relatively quickly from scratch if you're really pushing it, but I wouldn't push that just for the sake of it like some people do. Some people act like there's an end game. There isn't an end game. It's an MMO. It's an open universe. It's an open world sort of game. It's, you know, there isn't really an end game. You do whatever. I mean, some people find it very hard to understand. Some people find it mind-blowing, but that's just the way it is. There is no end game per se. Some people would come into Elite sometimes and try to build up as quickly as possible to Anaconda, which obviously is the biggest ship that you can buy, or that and the Type 9, biggest ship that you can buy without actually getting Imperial or Federal rank to unlock the cutter or the Corvette. But for like without doing that, yeah, a lot of people go for an Anaconda thinking, well, I've got the Anaconda now, and what do I do? It's like, but you've sort of almost shortcutted your way to that point. Like you're supposed to kind of try and enjoy yourself or experience as much of the richness of the Elite universe as you can, not just sort of try and shortcut it to, oh, I've got the bigger ship now. It's like, well, if that's your end game personally, then fair enough. But I think that's quite limited. And you know, will only get you so far. But it's like, yeah, you've got a great ship now, but what are you going to do with it? It's like, okay, that's cool, but it's a very good all-round ship. You can do most things with an Anaconda: explore, you know, trade, mine, etc. But you know, it's there is so many more things that you can do, and you know, it should be the start, really, not the end. It should be the beginning of everything. There's so many things you can do. And it isn't all about credits. Obviously, yeah, credits are useful. They're a means to an end rather than an end in itself. Certainly are for me, anyway. And I think I'm one of the least credit grindy people that I know who've been around for years in the Elite community. Probably shows because I'm actually relatively one of the poorer ones. I've still got more than 1 billion credits in cash and probably several billion in assets and spacecraft, etc. But on this account, and I was able even more on the other, which has the fleet carrier on it. But yeah, there's a lot of people around the same time have a lot more money than me. But yeah, so I'm not really, I've never been into credit grinds as much. Do what you have to. Decide running again, make sure it's engaged before doing anything else. Scan the tourist beacon. Just look at the beauty of the lovely Earth-like.
Mission objective complete.
Let's fly towards it slightly to get a better view as we leave the beacon behind. That's fun, we won't get there anytime soon. Not in sort of ordinary space flight like this. Not in Super Cruise. Yeah, we're nearly 6 kilometers away from the beacon. I think sensor range.
Temperature critical.
Yeah, we're probably beyond that now anyway. Station. I can't see anything on my scope, so the central sensor is around for the middle of the screen. Yeah, I think that's cool. Turn the silent running off. And back to Robigo we go. Yeah, it's a nice looking world. You can see the atmosphere there as well. Right, this time, get on my way. It's interesting these cruise ships keep on sort of broadcasting these things out to the, not within their ship, but out to the whole system. It's like, geotechnical issue, entertainment is scheduled this evening is cancelled. It's like, well, why is that not an internal comms thing? Why are you broadcasting literally the entire star system where nobody wants to hear it? It's a very strange message though. It's quite a common message though. decided to not go through sort of scooping range this time. Yeah, that's where you have to round the star to the point that you can get back into which space. The star obscures it otherwise. Yeah, I think I'll do a few more of these runs. As in for the rest of the stream, but let's say I want to do sort of a certain amount of variety of things and not just do one thing on my stream all the time. Obviously most of the stuff is going to be elite related, but within it just to have some sort of diversity and doing different things. Maybe do things I haven't done for a while also. Obviously what I'm doing here is obviously like designed to isn't necessarily beginner sort of orientated per se, but I always obviously do try to describe, you know, various things within Elite, assuming that people, you know, don't really know much about it or just come to, you know, the Elite sort of universe, or people think you might be buying Elite but don't really know what it's about and are interested in the introduction to the stream. And all the way up to sort of, you know, expert veteran commanders. Everyone's welcome. There's always something of interest, whether it be all the same way from like the basics of the game to the sort of deep lore and, you know, history of Elite and like little sort of details and interesting things for the different commanders as well. So I'm perfectly willing to have deep conversations in the chat as well about all kinds of things, from this sort of ridiculous to the sublime, or this sort of basic to the deeply sort of sophisticated. But yeah, I'm perfectly willing to talk about it all. It's all fine. Yeah, maybe I should actually put it on the stream in the future, like sort of beginner friendly or whatever the tag is. I don't want it to be purely about it, that's the thing though. I think every stream I'm hoping to be accessible to a wide range of people, just like the events that I've hosted and led in Elite. It's the same with those. I mean, exactly the same with those. Like everybody is welcome, no matter how experienced, how much of a newbie you actually are. Because this is the thing, even people who've never sort of played Elite before, some people have played for years, played all kinds of interesting different things, and it's always interesting people bringing new sort of perspectives to things as well. Obviously some people say come from sort of space and flight sim backgrounds, and people are just like RPG players or first-person perspective shooters or any number of different things. Or you just play a variety of games. I think a lot of people, to be fair, do just play a variety of things. Some people like specialise in one area or not, but yeah. I mean, it's good sometimes to do something different, just so that you don't get sort of stuck in a rut. And because you can kind of overdo it in anything, even the best things in life, you can have too much of a good thing, and you can overdo it. That's part of the reason that not every single stream is going to be Elite, even if most of my streams are Elite orientated. I'm certainly, I say I do, on average about once a week these days, do Tenants, which is a fairly newish game, but I'll probably pick another one at some point as a sort of alternative. But yeah, it's going to be like 80-70% of the time it's going to be Elite content. Locking request denied. Someone is hogging on pad, I see. Well, let's see what will happen. Try it again.
Docking request granted.
Cool. It's too much for a wait. Sometimes it's annoying if you have to sit there in space floating around within a few kilometers of a station, but they're not letting you in because they haven't approved your docking request. It's usually happens. This is the only one of the small problems with these smaller space stations, the outposts, is that, as I was alluding to earlier, the pads can actually get blocked by somebody. Doing the legitimate business, but just that the station only has so many spaces at one point, and sometimes it'll deny you for a little while, then you see a little spacecraft fly away, and then you know that there's a gap. Or hopefully with the pad that you want anyway. Welcome to Robigo Mines. It doesn't sound like the most sort of, high level sort of couture place in the world, or the galaxy. I'm sure it has its own charms though. Take the money for this. I will take the conductors for this. Biotech conductors. We'll also take the exquisite focus crystals. Money for me this time. And again here. Modify embedded firmware. Grade 5. Yep, I think I'll take that. Conductive polymers again. Yep, good enough. So this has been less of a credit sort of run more than a materials run. I originally intended it to be a credit run, but sometimes you see different things and you adapt your plans accordingly. Right. It's a nice one there for 3.7 mil. Oh wow, I like this. Now I'm not going to take this mission, but it's cool for one key reason. Is that he wants to go to the Dance of Cerberus, which happens to be a tourist beacon in a system that I discovered and submitted by me to Frontier, and they approved it. So, of all the things that I've done in Elite, in terms of events that I've led and organised, this is actually a part of the game, literally. Discovered by Commander Yannick, Dance of Cerberus. It's actually quite a way away, this one. This is not a quick mission. It's 28,000 light. This is like beyond Colonia, basically. I discovered it when I was actually using Colonia as a forward exploration base at the time. This was, what, 4 or 5 years ago? So, quite a while, really. But it's a spectacular system. I would recommend the visit. It's quite a way out. I'll show you in the galactic map. Yeah, it's there. See, I've already got it bookmarked for really obvious reasons. Yeah. See, this is the system, and we're sort of over. If I rotate it around over here, so it's like really quite a far. I will now click on the system map to show you. For those of you who maybe thought, no, he's making up, look. First discovered by Commander Yannick, aka me. But yeah, this is a genuinely amazing system. Oh, one of the reasons I think it was obviously they did agree with the tourist beacon submission that I did was that you look at it, it is quite an interesting and rare combination of a black hole primary. We've got these neutron stars, also in co-orbital with the class K star and the class G over here, which then co-orbits the first bunch and the black hole. So it's an interesting sort of stellar dance, hence the Dance of Cerberus. Cerberus being the hellhound that guarded the entrance to Hades in Greek mythology. So yeah, the stellar dance becomes the dance of Cerberus. A couple of gas giants over here. Yeah, these two gas giants aren't mapped by me, but I didn't want to be greedy and done the whole system. But I took the stars and submitted it. So yeah, I'm very pleased with that. Very proud of that, actually. Back to the present, yeah. Sirius atmospherics, 5 million. Yes, I will take that. 3 million? I will also take that. Okay. Look for Robigo Cartel now. $3.5 mil. Just compare that to what Sirius are offering. Not a huge amount, but back to the Robigo Cartel people. First class captain? Sure. Yeah, you see a lot of these distant systems with interesting names that were at one point in the game's history submitted by players. Whether it was their own discovery, or I think sometimes even other people's discovery was sometimes submitted as being sort of interesting tourist beacon locations. Obviously, Frontier then had to go through them and approve them. Yeah, but it is. Most of these places are well worth visiting. There's usually something interesting or unusual about these systems. Another first class one. Continuing on the same path. Okay, so that's not going to be a goer from here on in. I'll take this one next. Now I'm quite limited because of what economy class cabins I've got left. I'm going to take that one. Too far. I think that's fine. One cabin remains, but I can't find anyone to fill it, so I'm going to have to just get going. One more to Sothis, or one more? It's always interesting to see who's been discovered and mapped by. And sometimes, if it especially is like a player that you know, it's quite interesting. Sometimes it's just a funny name, and it's good to have a look. So obviously, sometimes you get a cluster of places in nearby systems who all been mapped or discovered by the same person. But it's sort of an interesting sort of little, history mark upon like who's been doing what where. Onward we fly. Alright, let's boost away from the station. So, and flying. What's the next system? noticed the slightly silly name of my ship, Maximum Ice Cream, and why not? I mean, some of my ships are very seriously named, some of them are most certainly not. Your right chariot is pretty serious. This isn't. Maximum Ice Cream. Funny the equivalent of like flying around in an ice cream van, ice cream truck in space. I don't think that's a good, is it? It's, you can't. I don't think ice cream is actually one of the tradables for the day. Not even a rare good, which is kind of disappointing actually. Tons of ice cream. What do you do to sell that? When you should inject a ton of ice cream into the void. Keep it cool, definitely. Yeah, minus 200 degrees C. 70 degrees Kelvin or something. Beware, this ice cream is too cold to be touched with the human body. Just imagine us as a Python converted to be essentially a deep space ice cream van. That would be hilarious. Future goals. Conducted client last F White Star civil unrest reported. Wonder why they're so aggravated. Any number of reasons, I suppose. Looking up the prices of webcams recently, getting a bit more sort of interactive. I do have a webcam actually at the moment, but it's not the greatest. It's okay, but you know, it seems to be kind of more useful for you know, Zoom calls or Skype ones than it is actually for doing anything streaming related. I could technically use it for streaming related stuff, but it would be like an interim thing if I did. Because it's quite a cheap one, I think it's more difficult to control the light levels as well into this room, so I don't know if it would look any good. I'll think about that one. Has anyone actually bothered whether they see me or not? I suppose it is always more relatable, isn't it, if you can see someone in front of you rather than a disembodied voice. Disembodied voices can be funny though. Certainly can. Yeah, as I say, it's like I'm trying to have each stream as being not exactly the same thing as I did in the previous one, unless there's actually like a good reason for it, like recently visiting different sites of the abandoned generation ships, because obviously we was visiting a different site each time, and there was obviously a narrative to each one. So it's not quite as repetitive as it would otherwise be. Let's say if I did, you know, this sort of passenger missions for like 3 streams in a row, that could get quite dull quite quickly, I think. I mean, not just for me, but for you guys watching as well. There's only so much in the way of passenger missions I think anybody can take reasonably. You see on the left there I have the heat sinks ready just in case I need them. But at the moment there's really not been any particular need so far. I mean, I really needed to. There's a lot of spacecraft around who might detect me. Once I go into silent running, then I might use the heat sink to keep the temperature down. Once you eject, obviously the heat sink, your temperature, your spacecraft goes way down, so it can keep you in silent running for longer than you would normally. But obviously you can only do that as long as you've got heat sinks, so once you run out of those, you can synthesize new ones, but I don't know if you can do it quickly enough to keep it going. But it's an interesting challenge. I've not actually tried that, synthesizing as I'm going. Because obviously you've got to actually lose existing heatsinks you have now before you can synthesize new ones. We're nearly at serious atmospherics, about to drop. Here we go. Silent running is engaged. Yeah, I think his silent running is hiding slightly behind on the screen. That is behind my Yannick symbol. Scanning is nearly complete.
Mission objective complete.
I think I'll eject a heatsink just to illustrate the point. Actually, I'll turn the heatsink launcher on here. See now, the percentage goes way down, 1%. And then it frosts over because of the sudden cooling of the spacecraft. 0. No, it's 8%, sorry, not 0. But yeah, I think the frosting effect's quite nice. See, it buys me some more time in silent running. But yeah, I think I'm well clear now anyway. So it's not a problem. That's a nice view. I think I'll keep it in that for a bit. I'll get out of silent running now. I need to maintain it. Hello, Robigo. Nice to see you again. Get the alignment right, and then get ready to jump. Imagine on a spacecraft like this having like an internal klaxon that goes whenever you're about to jump. At least for the passengers anyway. Obviously I don't think the pilot, I don't need that. Just give them some indication. But yeah, I suppose that's like a more traditional sort of sci-fi trope, isn't it? An interesting thought. Actually get an internal klaxon. This stuff. Red alert signal. It's like Red Dwarf, isn't it? Red alert, red alert. Chocolate nut bars being stolen from the vending machine. You see the thing with having sentient vending machines? It's having AI vending machines, I mean. But, it's like they're bound to be a bit nutty, or they're bound to get a bit, no pun intended, but they're bound to go insane eventually. And if you think about it, no matter how well you program, you've got an AI at a vending machine, it's probably not going to remain mentally stable for all that long. Unless it has a totally boring personality. I don't know if it's inevitable that AI would necessarily become peculiar, somewhat eccentric, but yeah, definitely makes a better comedy anyway, I would say that. Hello to you Red Dwarf fans out there. I know there's plenty of you. Almost at Robigo. Jump again, and onwards where we're going to go. In the system of Robigo. I think the Robigo system itself, I mean, they said the gas giants are pretty interesting, they look nice. Aside from that, it's a relatively uninspiring system. In terms of the other planetary bodies and stuff. Yeah, the gas giants are nice, but the most of the rocky planets, icy planets, aren't very interesting. I must admit, I haven't made like an extensive survey of the place, but as far as I remember, it's rather simple. Okay, there we are. Okay. Yeah, moving towards Robigo Mines. Let's put up on the system map. Yes, there are some landable planets not too far away. There's a settlement as well on one of them, not too far away from Vigo Mines. There's another one here. There's a carbon dioxide atmosphere that isn't landable at this point. Yeah, every time there's a significant update or improvement to the Odyssey Alpha, I will look into it again and see if I can actually whip the thing into shape and so that I can actually stream the damn thing. It would be nice, wouldn't it, to be able to do that, because a lot of other obviously elite streamers are doing that at the moment, but I don't think everyone necessarily by the looks of it has either ordered the alpha or has the machine to run it. I mean, technically I'm supposed to have the machine to run it, but you know, in reality it's so far from being optimized it just doesn't run well. It's crashed too many times as well. Even on better machines it's crashed because of bugs that exist within the game, but yeah, it's a bit ropey really at the moment. Fingers crossed it'll get better. I think, as far as I understand, the phase 2 is supposed to begin quite soon, so I'm hoping the code for that will run better. Then again, there's more stuff, so potentially more chances for things to go wrong, but I'm just hoping that things will actually improve. So yes, we will see. But yeah, it would be exciting because obviously, you know, I really wanted to stream the alpha, but that's not been possible so far.
Docking request denied.
No, don't deny my docking request. Don't be a party member.
Docking request denied.
I might have to just sit here for a little bit then. Wait until they open up. Yeah. Okay, I'll try again in a few seconds. But in the meantime, let's look at the view. There might be some activity there according to the scanner. So, oh, I didn't want to do that. Apologies. Press the wrong button.
Docking request granted.
Awesome. Okay, the medium pad is free. We'll be landing shortly. I think that's one of the good things about Elite that should actually be sort of automated. Possible to see in different automated systems, you know, the docking computer, the supercruiser assist. There's like, I think some people get very purist about it, and like you should always fly manual all the time. It's like, well, not necessarily. Give people a range of options, all the way from being able to, you know, fly with flight assist off, all the way through to being like virtually automated flight through most of it. I mean, yeah, horses for courses, really. Different people want different things, and let's say especially if you haven't got much time to play, you might not necessarily want to spend all that time you know, mucking about with docking and things. Just get on with it, you know. I think it's the docking computer especially. It's like, you know, you can sometimes take a break while it's docking, stuff like that, really. So it's a practical point, if nothing else. But then that's the point. The option is there. You want to use the automated systems, you can. Say like when we're in the bubble and, you know, I'm flying around doing repetitive things, I often do use the automatics because it just gets boring to do all this manually. But when I'm out in the black, everything's manual, apart from the odd use of, say, Super Cruise Orbit. But aside from that, it's all manual. So it's like, you know, I mix and match. I very much do. Going for the materials at the moment. Wherever I can. Yeah, I'll get the money from that one. So even when I get the material, I usually get some amount of money as well. It's not a total trade-off. It's a trade-off to some degree, though. Yeah, see, I get 2.8 million if I just take the money straight. But if I want the exquisite focus crystals, it's I only get 1.2 million. So I still get, yeah, a fair amount of money for it. I just get the material as well. Okay, yeah, I'll go for the firmware. Cool. I think I've improved my reputation with the Robigo cartel, so in future that will help me with these kind of passenger missions. That's why I say I always leave this particular Python out here in the Robigo system on purpose, so that I can do these passenger missions whenever I need to do the money. Or in this case, it's actually a lot of me just demonstrating. Yeah. The whole sort of thing, because even people who've been playing the game for a bit might not necessarily have done passenger missions almost at all, or not for a while. And so there are definitely lucrative passenger runs like the Robigo Cluster that's still there. I think there used to be a lot more of them, and there have been various sorts of really lucrative passenger mission runs, but in the game's history, I mean, that have then been sort of stomped upon by people on high, so it's a bit sad really when that happens, because some of them were quite good earners and not insanely high earners, but some of them were not as high as mining. Mining at its peaks always been much higher than anything else. Yeah, I think at this point it may be a good time to be ending the stream, because we've done a good amount of these runs. Gained some nice amount of money for it, gained some materials, showed what can be done here. Showed the dance of Cerberus, actually, which is something I didn't necessarily expect to be doing today, but the opportunity presented itself. So, yeah, just for an interest, I'll click on this one as a distant mission for another example, a place called Hole in the Sky. Just so that you have an idea of these sort of distant regions and what might be in them. And this looks like it's... Oh, I haven't been to that one, but it's a black hole at the centre of a planetary nebula. So, yeah, those are cool. That's maybe a place worth visiting. Planetary nebula generally are, to be honest. They're usually sort of spectacular locations. This is not insanely far away, but far away enough. 20,000 light years, was it? Yes, 20,000. Awesome. Excellent. Okay, I would like to thank every one of you who has tuned in today. Everyone who's watched the stream, I give you my gratitude, and say if you like what I do, please follow the stream, and if you really like what I do, please give me a donation. Either way, I'm just happy people are here watching this and experiencing it with me. But until next time, which will be at the same time tomorrow, fly safe, fly dangerous, or fly whatever way you wish. Have a good one, Commanders.